Welcome to the Legal Lowdown. I'm your host, Adrienne Lawrence, and this is my legal vlog. That's where I talk about 3 interesting issues that are trending in social media and kind of just give you the breakdown on it so you could talk about them too. So first up, this one comes to us from Houston to New York. It's that unfortunate situation where you had that baby little puppy bulldog. Well, it died in the overhead compartment of a United flight because a flight attendant tells this 11-year-old girl that she has to put it up there. Who does that? We know United, they said that they accept responsibility. They're conducting an investigation. They've refunded this 11-year-old passenger her $200 flight fee for the puppy and also was kind enough to give her family their tickets for free. But really, what other recourse does this young lady have? If she were to file a lawsuit, the lowdown on that would be it would be tough for her to essentially recover a lot because the situation is that society treats animals like property. So you'd look at what their fair market value would be. And a bulldog puppy, its price on the market could be, I don't know, $200 depending on breeding. I'm sure it can get pretty high, but it probably wouldn't be that much in terms of worthy of filing a lawsuit against United. Also, when we fly, our tickets, they essentially stayed on the back of them, if there is a back of them anymore. But essentially, they say that the airline is only limited to a certain amount of money in the event that your property is damaged or lost or whatnot. The bottom line is, when we're flying, we're responsible for our animals. We've got to exercise our own judgment and protect these beasts that we've been entrusted with taking care of to ensure that they're okay. Because the airline, at the end of the day, probably won't be responsible for much if it were in, the court's hands. Moving on to the second issue, comes to us from New York City. I'm talking about Pharma Bro Martin Shkreli. Well, he requested that he's able to serve his 7-year sentence for defrauding investors. He wants to serve it in a minimum security prison. Like, come on. But let's roll it back a little bit and talk about his sentencing. He was facing about 20 years, and prosecutors, they asked the judge to give him 15, but the judge decided on 7. Why is that? The lowdown on this essentially is the courts can decide what they want when it comes to sentencing, as long as they're operating on those lovely things we like to call sentencing guidelines. But at the end of the day, the judge can consider a host of factors, like is the individual likely to be rehabilitated? What is their level of remorse for their crimes? How many people did they hurt? And this Shkreli guy, talking about Pharma Bro, he was kind of, unsavory to begin with. He, jacked up the price of that life-saving AIDS drug by 5,000%. But ultimately the judge decided he only needs about 7 years in the pen in order for him to be able to go, be a productive member of society again. So we will see him, about 2025? The bottom line is that these guys are gonna be facing a fair amount of prison time, but they may not always get hit with the book. And there are gonna be a lot more of these investor fraud cases coming up. And so you're gonna be able to see a range of sentencing based on a range of factors. So definitely don't get wedded to 7 years in prison for investor fraud or anything like that. Who knows what we could see coming up. Our third and final topic comes to us from Los Angeles. It's Brooklyn Nine-Nine star, former NFL player Terry Crews. He has been fighting a very public battle against Adam Bennett. He's a WME IMG exec who Crews says grabbed him by his testicles at a party back in, I think, November 2016. Well, essentially, the LA County DA says they can't do anything for Crews when it comes to criminal liability. And the lowdown on that, well, it really has to do with timelines and elements. So timelines, first of all, to have a misdemeanor sexual battery type charge, you have to bring it within 1 year. Terry Crews didn't go to police until this metoo movement came out, and that was around November 2017, which would have put it a year past the incident when it occurred. As it concerns felony charges, well, the DA said that they were missing that element of actual touch with the skin. Because the way that the law is written is that in certain circumstances where you have a sexual battery case, you actually have to have the assailant come in contact with the individual's skin. So as much as it can be extremely offensive and disgusting, and it deserves criminal charges, unfortunately, our law enforcement authorities, our DAs, they're limited based on what the law is. So the bottom line here is keep speaking out, keep raising your voice when it comes to sexual assault, sexual harassment, and all these other forms of sexual misconduct. But if you can, definitely speak up sooner than later, because you don't want to be in a position where law enforcement authorities can't help you. But there's a good chance you are going to be in a position like Terry Crews is in, where he can bring a civil lawsuit and he can hold Adam Bennett accountable on his own. And that's what he's doing. So we wish him the best in that fight. He and his wife, wonderful people, and they are fighting on behalf of all of metoo. Thanks so much for watching this edition of the Legal Lowdown. I am Adrienne Lawrence, and you can catch me on Twitter at Adrienne Law, and you can also check out my website, adriennjlawrence.com. Thanks for watching.